Peter Parker has had it rough the past few months, moving away with his wife only to be brought back to New York. But with the return of his greatest foe, Norman Osborn, things have gotten even crazier. With the loss of his brother and daughter, Peter Parker and his wife Mary Jane must cope with their losses. Between their return to college, Norman Osborn, the Stacy family, new gangs, ninjas, and the Trapster, will they rise above it all or crack under the weight? Welcome to the Forgotten Era, where we'll answer all those questions and more.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a long-awaited episode of the Forgotten Era. It's not quite as long a wait as the last major hiatus, but nearly 2 months is a little bit of a wait. Up and down life problems on everyone's ends, just not been lining up or not had the motivation. But for the month of October, there is hopefully going to be a change. I'm going to try to be consistent and get out an episode every single week from now until the beginning of November. I've talked about it before, and of course, everybody knows that I'm the Clone Saga guy. So we're going to be doing a Clone Saga episode of the podcast, a big Clone Saga celebration, the week of November 12th, which is also the same week that in 1995, Ben Reilly became Spider-Man, which was the 9th. So that'll be super cool. I hope that everybody will appreciate the initiative I'm going to be putting into getting an episode out weekly, because it's going to kick my fucking ass. I just know it. Anyway, today I'm joined by the classic co-host of Matthew.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be back. Sorry for the delay. Like Ethan said, there's been a lot of life stuff that's kind of just been thrown at everybody's way. I had the pleasure of experiencing my first herniated disc that left me sleeping on the floor for a month, and unless I wanted to podcast for an hour and a half standing up constantly, it just wasn't in my cards. But thankfully, I'm ready to go this time, so it's good to be back. It's good to be with my friend. So
yeah, it's always good to be in the group. I say group; it's two people in the duo of the podcast, unless we have more people, which we may.
We're growing. We're growing.
Yeah. So I appreciate everybody from the bottom of my heart that comes back and listens after all the time away. I have a lot of people that reach out to me, and well, not a lot, like 4 or 5 people. That's a lot to me, considering I'm on one side of this and never see really anything else. But the fact that anybody at all looks forward to it and likes to give me encouragement is much appreciated. So this week we are back with Mr. J.M.D. Mateus over on Spectacular Spider-Man, covering a lot of people's favorite single issue of this time period, and the things leading up to it, obviously. Spectacular Spider-Man 247 through 250. So it's going to be jam-packed episode of, what is that, 4 issues?
Yeah, 4 issues.
Yeah. And
4.5 if you count the length of 250.
Yeah, 250 being a double-sized issue, so with a very cool cover. But yeah, I don't know if you have anything to add before we get started.
No, nothing. Just, the only thing to add really is looking forward to that Clone Saga episode. We've been talking about that for a while. It's going to be a good one. So
yeah, and this is the only reason. This is for the podcast people, because I think I've said this to you already. The only reason I am rushing so fucking much to get 5 episodes out beforehand is because it's just the way it has to line up in my head. I have to make it make sense, because it's pretty much everything. If we didn't take, or if I didn't take 3 months of hiatus after that Tom Lyle episode with Brad, and then the other 2 months, if I would have just stuck to my guns and done something about it, we wouldn't be in this situation. But the fact that I want everything before Spider Hunt done before this episode, the Clone Saga episode, is it's gonna be rough. But I think
we'll get through it.
I think I can get it done with the help of hopefully some guests. I've had a couple people reach out. But pretty much anybody, if it's like a last minute cancellation or if it's like not going to work out, I'm just going to have to record it by myself and get over it. So that is the plan for the month of October and into November. So like I said, look forward to the Clone Saga thing. We are currently deciding if it's going to be a live episode with call-ins or if it's going to be a pre-recorded episode like these normal ones with a voice message box. Just I want some sort of input from the people listening to the podcast. So it's going to be one of those two. I really like the idea of the live show, and we've had like an offer from Zach. Everybody knows Zach if you listen to this, to use like StreamYard and stuff. But we'll kind of see how it goes. Depends on the scheduling and how much time we have, because I don't want it to be like 4 hours long, but I also don't want it to be short. So enough of my inane ramblings. Spectacular Spider-Man number 247 is the first book of the night. This is titled Little Lies, published April 23rd of 1997, written by J.M. DeMatteis, pencils by Luke Ross, inks by Al Milgrom, and colors by John Callis. So, first of all, I want to say that this is one of, in my opinion, and in my experience, one of the most memorable covers of this time period. Whenever I would think about it, this would be kind of the one that pops into my head. I don't know what it is about it. I think it's just how menacing Mad Jack looks. But man, that's a gnarly cover. I dig it.
It's definitely next to 250. Probably maybe my second favorite cover. 250 is one of my all-time favorite covers in general, but this is up there. As a kid, this is what made me like Jack-o'-lantern and Mad Jack, all those kind of characters in general. I felt like one of the few people when the first Marvel Legend got announced being like, oh shit, here we go.
I was so excited,
dude.
Between Gang War and this, it was definitely much anticipated. Alrighty, so recap time. Good old Jonah Jameson has seen better days. After being attacked by the jack-o'-lantern, he lies in a hospital bed as his wife Marla wonders who could have done such a thing to her loving husband. John and his now girlfriend Ashley Kafka join the scene as Jonah awakes saying his memory is foggy of the attack. Pete is watching from outside, saying that no matter what Jonah has said about Spider-Man, he cares for him a lot. After briefly trying to figure out the list of folks who would want to kill Jonah, Pete experiences some of the vertigo effects from Morbius's bite. Yes, we're still in this period of Spectacular. After which he sees the jack-o'-lantern watching JJ. That's gotta mean Jack was the attacker. Spidey attacks the new Jack, who says he has no interest in Spider-Man, just Jameson. Jack's cat Maguire attacks Peter, which somehow doesn't set off his spider sense. Weird shit continues to happen as the new Mad Jack takes off his own head and uses it as a bomb. Jack gets away as another vertigo attack hits Peter. At ESU, MJ sits in a sports bra and jeans amongst her peers in psych class. She's once again doubting her life with Peter. The chameleon confrontation shook her up more than she thought. She thinks that between her time with her dad and Peter's life as Spider-Man, she could use a break from the chaos. She accepts that maybe all of this is her own problem, and she has to change herself. Class ends and MJ talks with Jill for a sec, then Peter runs by, late for tutoring, and blows MJ a kiss. Over with Flash Thompson. He decides to run by the Bugle to thank Betty for her helping him during his drunken spout. He calls her a special babe, to which Betty does not respond well to. She lists her stresses and just says she doesn't have time for this conversation. She tells him to call her later. Maybe they can have dinner. Maybe. The Jamesons, sans Jonah, go out to dinner. Randomly, Maguire the cat appears, sending John Jameson into a trance. He quickly leaves, and we see a drunk Flash at the same time in the restaurant picking up chicks. Spidey visits Jonah and antagonizes him in hopes it'll make JJ feel better. It does. Outside, Mad Jack is there and isn't letting Spidey off with any more warnings. Pete goes to punch Jack, and his hand lodges into his head. Pete starts tripping, with the world around him becoming a black void. He freaks out and begins falling, as the vertigo hits again. Jack saves Pete from hitting the ground, reaffirming he wants nothing to do with Spidey. Jack was just a distraction, while his man does the dirty work. Pete rushes to Jonah's room to find John Jameson smothering his own father with a pillow. End of 247.
Great issue.
Notice how long that recap was, man. It is so hard to write for Spectacular without thinking you're missing some detail.
Yes, it's so dense, but every single page, every single panel feels like it's intended, and that's what I love about this book.
Yeah, the beauty is that it's 21, 22 pages, and it feels like a good 30-minute episode, 35-minute episode of a soap opera or TV drama. In this case, I would say TV drama more than soap opera. But it's just so good. There's so much happening, and we're still at that point where we're kind of getting back into the groove of this time period. It's the second major arc of this book, and it is really jam-packed with a bunch of different subplots, but none of it feels nothing feels like it's less important. And nothing feels, it's all in balance. You have the stuff with Jonah, you have the stuff with John, you have the stuff that's going on with Peter and Mary Jane still coping from the stuff with Chameleon, and we have this whole mystery that even Peter is kind of what's going on? Why did Chameleon just disappear? It's a lot.
I mean, everything feels connected. As you know, even if it's not the plot points themselves are connected. Flash's stuff has nothing to do with the Jonah stuff, but everything feels connected emotionally. You have John, in this arc dealing with issues he has with his father, and then you have at the same time Flash dealing with stuff with his father, and you kind of get the rumblings of that with this issue for both characters. And it's just that I think DeMatteis does such a great job at balancing the emotions of characters. He is definitely, I know I can joke about him being and so what will I do today? Oh, I'll give this character terrible parents, and that's their motivation. But he really, at the end of the day, it really is effective, and it makes you care about what these characters are going through. And that's a problem that a lot of books have these days, I think, and in general, where this book, the characters are driving the plot, and the plot isn't driving the characters. You actually feel like what is happening affects them. The stuff with Mary Jane, where she's dealing with, hey, am I, the stuff that's going on with Peter, is this, should I be moving on? What's going on with this kind of stuff? Or it's just, I like the chaos because of how I grew up and everything. That makes sense psychologically. As somebody who grew up in a chaotic household, a lot of times in my life, I've found myself in chaotic situations because it feels normal. So it makes sense for Mary Jane to, be from this abusive family to end up with, not an abusive partner, but a partner who's very sporadic and all over the place. And these are the kind of things that I like from this book. And I know the anti-MJ camp likes to pick this kind of stuff out and be like, well, she made the choice of marrying him. She should have knew what she signed up for. But it's not as simple as that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, even I've fallen, victim to complaining about this a lot in this era specifically, because every other book has MJ saying the same exact thing. And I think it's more so it's just annoying to see versus it actually being an issue. I don't know, because I don't think it's a legitimate problem. It's just sometimes it does get a little old when every time you cut to MJ, she's going, am I really happy with Peter as Spider-Man? Am I really okay with Peter as Spider-Man? Is this all okay? And I don't know. I feel like it should be kind of like what this book is kind of doing, where she's like, should I be focusing on myself?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it me who is like not processing this? So, and I feel like some of the other writers might be falling a little flat on that front in terms of she is like doubtful of the situation, but at the same time isn't taking into consideration herself too, and how like her view might be, constrained or whatever it might be. But either way, I think it works here, and I don't really have that big of an issue.
Well, I mean, if your husband had a mortal enemy and he, for all intents and purposes, killed your child,
Yeah.
you'd probably be sitting around at some point going, "Hey, why am I with this man, or why am I dealing with this?" I mean, there's been marriages that have broken up for less trauma than that. Losing a child is no small feat. So I get it. I understand that dealing with that kind of stuff is annoying when you go issue to issue because this is supposed to be entertainment. But I don't know. I've always kind of taken these characters as they've always felt very real to me, and her kind of problems, along with like the stuff that Flash is dealing with, um, I've always kind of related to a degree. So maybe I just have a little bit more sympathy for those moments. But I mean, the other thing I wanted to bring up, not that this has nothing, it's funny, not to do with anything psychological, but can we just talk about the page? Was it for me? I'm reading physically, page 5 when Peter gets the vertigo. Tell me that's not the PS1 game. That color palette.
Oh yeah, no, that definitely is, and it's what 3 years before the PS1 game, so
Yeah.
no, for sure. What are your thoughts on Mr. Jack's scary as fuck new powers?
So during this, I mean, he's the Jack o' Lantern, and these characters, the characters that are akin to the Hobgoblin and all that. They've always been associated with being knockoffs of Norman and the Green Goblin. So to give him, Mysterio-ish kind of powers, whatever you want to call them, up to this point that we as readers would know about what we're looking at. I like it. It makes him different. Makes him scary. It makes him visually impressive. It's fun to watch him do things like one of the best pages in the book is when he rips his head off and he throws it at Peter like a pumpkin bomb, and the pumpkin bomb ish head goes, oh, by the way, boom, and Peter's like, boom, and the thing blows up and his head just grows back and everything, and then he has the whole psychological break. I really like it. I This is something that I'm glad is here for right now. Would I want to see other characters deal with have the same thing? Not necessarily. Like I said, we're kind of stepping into the Mysterio play field, but I like it so far. What about you?
Mysterio.
Yeah,
I
you see
wonder
what
if
I did
this
there?
character would ever be connected to that guy.
Yeah.
Um, I like it. I like that he's just like a weird Irish dude. Like, it is interesting because, I mean, we haven't had a traditional Goblin character in a while, and this is
Mhm.
not a traditional Goblin character. But it's also unique in a way that isn't like weird and try hard, like what they did with Macendale when he was, like cybernetic Hobgoblin. So we have this entirely new unknown character who JM has admitted didn't even know who he was at the time of writing. Just with these really psyched out like abilities for hypnotizing and illusions and all that. And honestly, I think the 2 pages where Peter punches through his head and the like jack-o'-lantern is like bleeding. would probably terrify me
Mm-hmm.
if I like read this as like a child, like, I don't know, 5, 6 years old. It would definitely freak me the fuck out. And I think it's really great that Ross gets to draw that, because of all the artists at this time in the Spider-Verse, no animated movie intended, I think he does like the creepy weird the best and the most consistent.
Yeah, he
So,
definitely does.
So I very much like that aspect. Because like if Mike Ringo was drawing this book, I don't know if I would be quite as terrified of the flaming bloody pumpkin man, because it's like cartoony Ringo. But this is like, nah man, this is fucking scary.
The only artist in the repertoire of Spidey's artists up to this point that I could say I could see doing a good job would be Mike Zeck.
Yeah.
That's the closest I could find. But Mike Zeck's also a little bit more traditional. I think what we're getting here is, like you said, he really lends himself to being creepy with, like the blood. Which, looking at the thing, it does look like blood. I interpreted it as just pumpkin juices. That's what I interpreted it
Since
as.
it's red, I was like, I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be blood.
Yeah, well, it looked orange to me. But I mean, it don't matter. Because like his Peter's mask's like yellowish orange on his face. That's why I took it as pumpkin matter, but it don't matter. Oh yeah, and then the next page is red. Really good. Really like the Peter smashing the head to get out of the illusion and everything, and it's just great issue, great visuals. I got nothing more to say about that whole scene.
I give this bad boy probably a 10 out of 10.
I'm gonna go. Well, yeah, 10 out of 10. You know what? I completely forgot the cliffhanger in this issue is really good too.
Yeah, the cliffhanger is really damn good.
It's really good. This is perfect 10 out of 10. Great issue. One of the best in the run. One of the best of this entire decade, in my opinion.
It's just so good. It's just so good. That might be the first 10 in a while. All right. Spectacular 248. We have nearly the same writing team. I will say between 247 and 248, -1 was between, which we have covered in the Flashback Month episode. So give that a listen if you haven't already. So that was May, and now we're June. So Spectacular Spider-Man 248 From the Shadows was released on June 25th of 1997, written by JMD, with scripting and help by Mark Bernardo, art by Luke Ross, with Dan Green and Al Milgram on inks, and John Callis on on colors, as always. Who we now both own color guides from, which is cool.
Yes, we do.
Alrighty. A shocked John Jameson is being interrogated by some police officers about his father's attempted murder, but Marla isn't having it. She even insinuates that Spider-Man could have framed John, despite John and Ashley's objections. Later in that night, Jack visits Jonah again. Jonah knows who Jack is. They've shared a past. Jack's been hired for this gig, and all Jonah has to do is give up the bugle to make the torment stop. He refuses. In Queens, Flash visits his home for the first time in years. He's finally mustered the courage to face his father, but his father doesn't care. Mr. Thompson makes a remark about Flash coming to see if he's dead yet, and Flash says that he hopes his dad dies soon. Flash storms out, saying nothing ever changes. John assures Marla that if Spidey says he saw John suffocating Jonah, Spidey is right. John agrees to hypnosis from Ashley to get to the bottom of what's going on. Out in the rain, of course, Pete is swinging and is attacked by a gorilla and a tiger. After they let up, he sees a flash of Kraven. But Kraven's dead, right? Depressed Jack, which is fucking hilarious, by the way, spies on Marla in the shower, looking depressed as fuck, and steals a book from her room. While inside the mind of John Jameson, Jack's mind control wall is found. John breaks the wall, but the man-wolf is his opponent afterwards. Spidey heads back to check on Jonah. When guards come in, Jonah insists Spidey didn't do anything. He's clutching the book that Jack stole, meaning there was another threat. Jack meets with his employer. The employer offers more work, but Jack declines. He's not in it for the money. The employer can go to Hades. Little does he know, though, Norman Osborn has already faced death. And that's 248.
Who's Norman Osborn? No.
Okay, so Norman Osborn, for those who don't know.
I mean, this issue's not as I don't like it as much as the last one. Um, Immediately when Ashley Kafka's like, let's do hypnotherapy, my mind went through the whole thing of like, I immediately, when I was younger, I used to be big into like UFOs and aliens and everything, and there was a whole thing that they would do back in the day where they would put people under hypnotherapy and pull quote unquote memories out of them and everything. And that whole thing can be dangerous. So the second she was like, let's do hypnotherapy, it's just like, oh, come on, Ashley. Like, you are just a cavalcade of fuck ups after fuck up. And it does not get any better for you later on in life. So, but I mean, the major thing that I'll bring focus to in this issue is the hospital scene with Jack and Jonah. That is, I would love to own these two pages, especially the page where the head from the pumpkin head starts lighting up as Jonah's sleeping and he wakes up and he sees them and everything. Oh, that's beautiful, beautiful art. I mean, I don't think Ross gets enough praise. I know we praise him and everything, but like in the pantheon of like artists, he does not get enough praise at all. He gets overshadowed by Bagley and Sal Buscema from this era. I mean, this decade is what I mean, but you know what I mean. But oh my God, just great. But that's the first thing I'll bring up. So what about you?
I agree that it's not as strong. I don't think the pacing is nearly as good as last issue. But there's a lot that does get done, and a lot of exact detail that I didn't work into the recap. But I think a lot of what allows this issue to continue to be great is characterization, as always. I love that John and Ashley, especially John, considering he's Jonah's son, is so insistent that if Spider-Man says that he saw John doing it, then Spider-Man isn't lying, because they have enough of that, professional relationship and knowing each other that he's not stupid. He knows that he probably did it, especially because he blacked out and had no idea. You talk about the hospital scenes, which are incredible, and I want to focus on Ross's Spider-Man in the Rain, because as everybody who listens to this and has read these books knows, Romita Jr. is the Rain guy. Ever since Lost Years, which I believe was his first ever Spider-Man in the Rain, he's kind of been consistent as like the guy that can do Spider-Man in the Rain. But there's something about the collaborative effort here on all fronts, from pencilist, inker, colorist. I really dig the scenes in this issue and the following issues when there's more rain, of Peter like there. And again, that like creepy vibe. He's got this like crazy hunch on page 4 where
That's what I was looking at. Yeah.
He's like all scrunched up on the side of a building before he starts swinging again. It's like powerful, man.
That's my favorite image of Spider-Man that he's drawn in the last couple of issues. I personally love Spider-Man in the Rain. I wish it was drawn more. The thing that I love about rain scenes, especially like the coloring in this scene, is I love how like you can kind of feel like it kind of, you can feel the wind, you can feel like to me personally, I get that it's like a spring rain kind of. I know it's not that, but I get that warmth from it. But that's just me putting my own spin on it. But like this, you're right. This is some of the best rain. It's Spider-Man rain that you could possibly get.
Spider-Man Rain?
Oh God, do I have to explain Spider-Man rain? So seeing
So
Spider-Man
Spider-Man
rain,
Rain.
that was it. That was the big lead in. Everybody put everything aside. We're going to explain the one thing that everybody knows about Spider-Man rain. That's right. That Spider-Man wears underwear.
Spider-Man comes, everybody. Now this book you can definitely another thing, like moving on with something with Flash. You can without the context of the flashback issue, you can still kind of get the grasp of it, but the flashback issue really helps the stuff with Flash finally like confronting his parents, because you get to see all the struggle that he went through in the flashback issue. And like his mom just being like the sweetest lady, wanting to see her son for the first time in a long time. It's so like stereotypical dysfunctional family dynamic, yeah, where the mom is like, oh, I love you, it's been months, and then the dad's like, ah, fuck you, man, just came to see if I'm dead yet, go fuck yourself. That whole scene was pretty good. I like the stuff with Craven being attacked by random monkeys and lions and bears, oh my.
Really, I don't like that.
I just like Craven himself, and I think it doesn't need to be in this issue because there's already enough going on, but I guess they're just like, we gotta establish this quick. I don't know. I think I would have liked more if Spidey was just swinging and saw Craven.
Yeah.
Versus being attacked by the animals. So I can definitely see why it wouldn't be like something you like a lot.
Well, the thing with that was like when I was and it's been like, God, almost 25 years since I've read this book. When this whole scene popped up and everything, and you're watching Spider-Man get the shit kicked out of him, it's like, watching him get the shit kicked out of him by normal people and animals. I know gorillas are strong,
You
but
can't
like
just punch a monkey?
yeah, like the whole thing of like, even if that's like a souped up monkey, it's a guy who, I'm going down that power feet Twitter strength bullshit, but like a dude who can lift 10 tons should not be getting sideswiped by a monkey, by an ape, a gorilla, whatever primate you want, and being like, "Oh, I'm tired," and like that's my whole thing, and a lion and all that. It's very like Stanley Ditko ish kind of thing, and I'm not a fan of that. Right? I don't like it when these characters who have dealt with a lot of stuff kind of like, I don't know. He does kind of get like tripped up. I don't know. Take what you will. But Craven showing up himself, I'm fine with, especially with like the moodiness and the rain and all that, the lightning, all that. It's great. Just the animal bit, not a big fan of.
I have two more things to say before I think we can move on. This is the first issue of Spectacular with the new guide to the Marvel Universe. So that's cool. I hate that the cover focuses on the monkey. I wish it had something to do with more of the main story of the book. And then it has one of my favorite panels of all time to use as a mood image, and it's the sad Jack. I don't know why he looks so damn sad.
Who's grabbing his wrists
on page 16, but it just says, I can't let myself be overwhelmed by emotion in, a thought box by Peter, or no, not by Peter, sorry, by Marla, who's in the shower. And it's just like the saddest picture I've ever seen. And I don't quite understand why he's sad, but I think it's really funny.
It's got to do with the whole thing of, like you said, where he didn't know who this was at that point.
Yeah.
So,
But
what would it be? It wouldn't be a goblin or a goblin-esque character if you had no damn idea what the hell was going on with them. So,
I also do like
Pot
Peter
Marlowe.
like going to check on Jonah. Just
Yeah, to cheer him up. Yeah.
yeah, and Jonah's just absolutely like defeated. It's like, I don't know, man. I just want to be left alone. And then of course Norman Osborn, who we already know was back, but this is our well, at the time, I guess if you didn't pick up the Revelations trade, this is a really big deal. Because you don't know he's actually still alive after fucking exploding. But for everybody that did pick that up, I believe that was out by this point. Maybe it wasn't. Might not even have been. This is like, oh, well, there he is.
And it's happening in spectacular and not in amazing.
Yeah,
That's the wild thing.
that was the ballsy part. Is, and I think we've mentioned it before, but amazing is it doesn't feel like the flagship book at this time.
No, Spec does.
Spec definitely does. Spec and Peter Parker feel like the let's move the plot along books more so than Amazing does, because it's just dealing with, Rose and the True Believers and Black Tarantula and blah blah blah, and this is dealing with fucking Norman Osborn, and so does Peter Parker a lot, and Peter Parker has a lot of the Jill and Paul and Arthur Stacey and all that stuff. So
yeah, all the things we remember from this era.
right. So yeah, huge deal for this book, but there's more to come. Spectacular Spider-Man number 249, which has a really cool cover that kind of is also a little overwhelming, because this is kind of the point where we got a lot of plot going on, because now we have Norman revealed, we have Calypso and Craven on the cover, so we're going to focus more on them. And you know who doesn't show up on this cover at all? John Jameson or Jonah Jameson. We gotta get back to those guys. So I will say the trade dress on this issue is wrong, because this has the Amazing Spider-Man trade dress, and I'm pretty sure Amazing had the Spectacular trade dress for this month. I can't remember.
Oh.
But if you look at your issue, it says DeFalco, Scross, and La Rosa. That's not right. It is actually, of course, written by our good pal, or actually, no, this one was written by Mark Bernardo. This one wasn't written by J.M. DeMatteis. So this one's Bernardo, Luke Ross, Dan Green on inks, and John Callis on colors. But, little fun fact, if you have that issue, you can be like, what the fuck, that's not right. Again, we have our new guide to the Marvel Universe. And I lied, because JM did do plot on this. It was just scripting was Bernardo. So it's a gloomy and rainy day in New York. Craven is at the cemetery and met by Calypso. She wants to pick their passion up where it left off, but Craven says he's not who she remembers and that he walks his path alone. Pete and MJ go out for a night on the town, where MJ expresses her frustration with Peter's life as Spider-Man conflicting with their life as a couple. She wants to be assured that she is more important than Spider-Man, and Peter agrees she is. Later, they catch a glimpse of some animal running all over the place, thinking it might be tied to Craven. So, he runs to suit up. Flash's sister comes to visit, but blows him off after she realizes he is drunk, just like their father. She went down the same path and fixed it with AA meetings, but Flash refuses to accept he's drunk at all. After the interaction with his sister, Flash gets into a drunken car crash, almost killing a young boy in the process. The creature, running about New York, is revealed to be John Jameson, whose mind has become taken over by the man-wolf, though he's still human in appearance. Kafka comes to the scene and asks for Spidey's help. Peter leaves MJ out in the cold, waiting, and goes with Kafka. Meanwhile, at the Daily Bugle, Betty is surprised to see Norman Osborn there. Knowing he was the Goblin who attacked them at Halloween, she calls the police. JJ is released from the hospital and goes to the Bugle, where he tells Betty that Norman has every right to be there because he now owns the Daily Bugle. And that's 249. As you can tell, quite a bit shorter than the other recaps, but I would say this is probably the weakest book of the bunch this episode,
Mm-hmm.
which is okay. There's a lot of ground to cover, and they're kind of compensating because the next issue is double sized and also has a shit ton happening. I also just realized we forgot to rate the last issue.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
But we can do that really
8.
quick and then discuss. And yeah, I was going to say 8.5. So I guess that's it. So 249. Do you have anything major you want to say about this one?
So I mean, I guess we'll kind of, because this is short, kind of linger on this. It's a little bit shorter than the other ones. You know, having Flash's sister and, her kind of, it kind of delves into that whole dysfunctional family bit a little bit more of, the traditional, the siblings are both messed up from their family and everything, and one of them takes care of their thing and then the other one's struggling with it, and one of them has to be stern towards the other. That's stuff that I've literally had to deal with, and so I can really relate to the Flash story. um you know
With the
I
Flash? All right,
Yeah.
guys, this is the Mark Wade Flash podcast. Oh, that was a bad joke. I'm sorry.
No, you broke up for a second there. Sorry. All I heard was the Flash, and then it went silent.
Oh, I said welcome to the Mark Wade Flash podcast.
I like the Mark Wade, the Flash, the Mark. I don't know, man. My brain just jumbled up there for a second.
All right,
Yeah,
Spider-Man.
I really like Impulse. Bart Allen's my boy. But yeah, I really like the Flash bits in this. I kind of relate to what's going on. Not that I don't drink or anything, but like I can relate to dealing with family like that. And I mean, this also has, not a character bit, but this has, in my opinion, top 3 most well-known Luke Ross images of all time, and that's page 13. That's Spider-Man right there. That is an image that I always see of him. Always see that. That's another image that always gets confused with McFarlane. For people who don't know, absolutely love that image. But I mean, it's a short issue. I love the whole thing with, like, John, um, you know, thinking, freaking out, thinking he's the man wolf, and just being, foaming at the mouth and running up and down, kind of looking like Peter. I ain't gonna lie. He got that same hair and everything in some page, especially when he's climbing up the stairs or whatever. Um, but I mean, that's probably my favorite part of the issue is the stuff that's going on with John. Surprisingly, um, I'm watching him just Peter just being like, "All right, I'm not gonna hurt you, but you bit me, so now I'm gonna fuck you up," like that whole kind of thing and everything. Yeah. What about you?
It's a good issue. The way that I agree that it's very like same facey. It looks a lot like Peter. John does, and I especially like the interactions with Norman here, and the kind of like classic tragedy of Peter, like leaving MJ out in the cold, literally, especially after all the conversation, having the conversation saying, "Yes, Mary Jane, my wife, you are more important than Spider-Man," and then immediately ditching her. That's just some classic Parker tragedy.
That's just what us guys do, man. We
As
promise our women the world, and then the second something comes up, we're like, we gotta go. I mean, I love it.
But yeah, no, I do like this issue, and the again gigantic revelation in Spectacular of Norman owning the Bugle. I remember when I was a bit younger, I read Amazing first. I was reading all of Amazing, and there's some point in Amazing around the time this issue came out where they just offhandedly mention that Norman owns the Daily Bugle. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking? Obviously, I didn't say what the fuck because I was like probably 11 years old. I might have said what the fuck, actually.
He said, "What the goddamn it?"
Yeah, I said, what the horse shit? But I was just so confused because I didn't know, what was happening in these other books because they weren't easily accessible when I was 11.
Yep, and that's the problem with comic books. I hate to say it.
Yeah, well, I didn't really do a ton of comic shop and stuff at that time either. But yeah, again, huge thing that Norman owns the Bugle now, and it's going to cause a lot of fucking drama later. A lot of fucking drama. And also the Flash car crash thing. That's pretty intense too.
Yeah, he's fine.
He is fine, but that is pretty intense.
He's 10 years away from being Venom. He's fine.
That's true. So this one, I would probably tack it at like I don't know, I give it like a 7.5. It's not terrible.
I'm giving it a 7, mainly because once again, Kafka is paying for her fuck ups.
Yeah.
Let's go down the list of what she's done in the last couple issues to this poor fucking man.
Let's see what she's done in the past couple goddamn years.
Well, I just want to focus on these last couple issues because a fucking a vestige of her shot him. So, and then now she's doing this whole thing with turning him into a humanized version of the man wolf and everything. She is just, I hate her, and but luckily nothing ever happens to her.
Dude, this is the same Ashley Kafka who allowed the events of Power and Responsibility to happen, and then at the very end of it was convinced by a fucking letter in the mail that that Judas Traveler mailed beforehand saying, "I can't make it," and she's like, "Okay."
Yep, it must be a different guy.
Even though that guy looks just like the Doctor, the world-renowned Doctor, who I've seen before, probably.
Maybe, we don't know.
It's like, what? And then, letting Carnage go 14 times.
Yeah, well, so side note, that's part of the reason why I don't really like Travelers, because that whole thing, that whole plot point, everything was, as from a kid, I always thought that was stupid.
It's stupid, but I like him.
Yeah, well, he looks like a bad Final Fantasy character, which, by the way, has an advertisement in the fucking physical copy of this book, Final Fantasy VII. Go pick up your copy today. That's all I'll say.
This book has Unk status, as the kids would say.
Yeah, well, that game is a masterpiece, so I love it.
All right, anyway, Spectacular Spider-Man number 250. This is the big one, guys. This has motherfucking 3 covers all in one because it's like a super gatefold. So the main front cover is by John Romita Jr. and Scott Hanna, which insane, by the way. Great photo of the supporting cast with Spider-Man hovering above and like the nighttime sky forming the Green Goblin. That's fucking awesome. And then if you go, to the inside part, it's the same image, the same supporting cast, but drawn by John Romita Sr. And it has Norman instead of the Goblin above everybody. And then if you do the gatefold, it's super fucking dope cool because it's, the history of the Goblin pretty much, showing Amazing Spider-Man 39 and him then dying and also killing Gwen and also fighting, and it's all really cool, and it's by the Romitas together, which is super dope.
I mean, this cover was I used to, man, I've destroyed so many versions of this book by ripping the cover off and making it a poster as a kid. This is a top 10 cover for me, like without a doubt.
It's so good. It sucks that this book is double thick and the pressing in 1997 is dog shit. So if you ever find a copy of this book that doesn't have recessed staples, consider yourself lucky. Because
Yeah.
I own two. One is really bad, and the other one is starting to get really bad, but it's still intact. The binding hasn't broken yet. And
Mine's in good shape. Um, the copy that I'm reading right now is got a little color breakage on the spine. But as far as the staples, there's one that's starting to recede in, but everything else is fine. I'm probably gonna make this like my very last, like turning it into a poster thing because the one I last used last time was got lost and everything. But I mean, looking at Ramita Jr. drawing, bits from 39 and 121 or 122 and all that. That's what I come here for, man.
that's what you come.
No, I don't do that anymore.
It makes you come.
Not after the war.
But yeah, this is super great cover. And man, the fact that this isn't available like digitally officially is fucking devastating.
For how important of a book it is, it should be available in some capacity.
How is it? My thing is they do all these character collections. Marvel publishes a lot of character centric trade paperbacks, really, back in the day.
Mhm.
I don't know how this never made its way into any of them.
The fact that they, a lot of the stuff that like Norman did in the 90s in general are not in any trade. And I mean, I don't collect trades as much as you do, so maybe I'm wrong in this, but like a lot, as far as I know, a lot of this stuff in general is not available to anybody for the most part.
Yeah,
So there's,
thankfully, Peter Parker 88 is available. Like they republished that. That's in the Identity Crisis trade.
mm,
So like that big deal book is available, which is fantastic because that issue is fucking awesome.
mm.
But yeah, this one not being in anything is
It's an important book, and it's one of those. I mean, I know we haven't gone over the plot, but I'll say this before we go into the plot. It's one of those books where it is a classic. When you think of Norman and Peter interactions, this is that book encapsulates it. But sorry, don't mean to delay you much longer.
oh, you're fine. So, Spectacular 250, Citizen Osborn as a take on Citizen Kane, was released on August 27th of 1997. Of course, with our typical JMD, Luke Ross, Dan Green, Al Milgram, and John Callis. Strap yourselves in. We open up on the Green Goblin, appearing to be stalking over the Parker household. MJ wakes from a nightmare and wonders where Peter could be, after Betty tells her about Norman's return. Elsewhere, Peter and Ashley, mostly Ashley, are able to snap John out of the man-wolf personality, after John physically transforms into the wolf for a bit. Norman makes his return known to Liz Allen and later holds a press conference to reveal his return to New York, claiming he had been hiding in Europe due to Spider-Man's pursuit against him and his family. Norman says that Jonah was the only one that knew of his time in Europe and encouraged him to return, corroborating claims that Norman is not the newly returned Green Goblin and never was. Norman blames Ben Urich for spreading a smear campaign against him and his family. Peter and MJ show up to the event and Norman singles them out, as always, crying about poor Gwen's death and how he wishes to bring the Green Goblin to justice. As new co-owner of the Bugle and reinstating Harry's Osborn Foundation, Norman plans on making the city a better place for everyone. Over with Flash, his sister comes to visit him in the hospital. He makes excuses about the crash being the kid's fault, but when his sister berates him for ignoring the truth, he admits it was all his own fault. Back at his apartment, he's struggling again. His license has been revoked, he's been fired from his job, and he's broke. With no other options, he decides to go pay his father another visit. Now at the Kravinoff estate, Calypso attempts to court the new Kraven again, but he kicks her attempt at love to the side, saying he is the second son of Kraven, succeeding where Vladimir couldn't. He will destroy the spider. Peter and MJ arrive home after MJ has a confrontation with Liz Allen at the party. Aunt Anna says their house has been thrown over, and Peter runs up the steps to see if whoever did it might still be there. He finds a Green Goblin figure with a gotcha note reminiscent of Pursuit. He is filled with rage. Peter bursts into Norman's home and beats him bloody, saying that there'll be no more Gwens, no more Ben Rileys, and no more games. He will chase Norman until he and the Green Goblin are gone, and he's only getting started. Flash goes to his father's home in rage. He asks his father if he ever took into consideration how his kids felt when he beat them, or if he was too busy just blaming everyone else for his own issues. He knocks him around before stopping himself and leaving. Norman reveals to Peter that he put their whole encounter on tape, Spider-Man beating up the philanthropist for no apparent reason. Security comes in and shoots at Peter, who webs away. He remembers all those taken by the Osborn curse, and worries about everyone who hasn't been, questioning if the fight will ever end. And there's a quick summary of Spectacular 250. What a comic. What a comic.
Perfect 10 out of 10. Just get that out of the way.
Yeah, for sure. And the double length can sometimes feel like a chore for subcomics, but it works really well here for so we have to wrap up the Man-Wolf story, which honestly anticlimactic. But I guess
It's got that one good moment where Ashley's like, you got to hold him for a couple minutes or a couple hours, and he's like, a couple hours.
Yeah. And then of course, I kind of brushed over Norman's whole interaction with Liz, but that was all about how Norman feels so bad about the loss of Harry and how he just wants to have the legacy continue with little Normie, and Liz is just like, you will not touch my fucking son, and he is like, Norman activates evil mode, man. It's such like Norman in this time period is written so well because the public face and the like pity face of like the man who's lost his family, lost his son, lost so much, and then like he's actually the fucking worst guy ever. It's just so good.
Well, it goes to show you that especially with these kind of people, these people in power, they can say things that, some people are just willing to believe just to, go about their lives. And Norman's one of those kind of people where it's like people are like, aren't you the Green Goblin? Like, it's pretty much confirmed you're the Green Goblin. He's like, oh no, I'm not the Green Goblin. I'm just, that was all a ruse or whatever.
I threatened this guy to corroborate.
Yeah, so it's very like, I'm reading that and I was just kind of like, well, damn, like this is getting too close to home. So, but I mean, this is, first off, this is one of my favorite issues of Spider-Man ever in general. My favorite things in the history of the character are the Norman and Peter interactions. I'm one of those believers that will say to the high hills that Spider-Man's greatest enemy is Doc Ock, but Peter's greatest enemy is Norman Osborn. And it's because just Norman is so fucking personal with it and so vindictive and so swarmy that the dude is more interesting without the mask on than he is with the mask on. And there are very few villains in comic books that can say that. You have your Lex Luthors and stuff like that where they don't need necessarily masks to be threatening to the hero, you know what I mean? But there's just something about Norman that really gets under your skin. And this was the issue as a kid that really hit that home with me. It was this in the 90s cartoon, the issue, or the issue, well, the episode. It's been years since I watched the 90s show, but the episode of the 90s show where they're having the dinner and everything, and Peter throws the web shooter in the fire, and that explodes and everything. That episode and this issue are kind of like what really sold how swarmy Norman is, because up to this point as a reader, Norman, for me and for a lot of other people, he was just a picture that was on a wall that you would see Harry talk to, or you would see Peter look at and get visibly angry with. And you would always think to yourself, damn, how bad was this guy that these people are having this reaction to this legacy character? This character just has a legacy. So, because I didn't have a way to read those older books back in the day, the Ditko, the Ramitas, all those books, but phenomenal issue. So I could rant about this issue for hours in a good way.
Yeah, hopefully in a good way. But there is a ton that happens in this book, and I honestly don't think we can do it justice by talking about it. So if you have the means to buy a copy or read it through Project Rescan, please do. It's an integral part of this time period because it truly does show that Goblin or no Goblin, Norman is like the force to be reckoned with. And honestly, a lot of the books of this time period, and even a little later, like American Son and stuff, it just goes to show that Norman doesn't need to be the Green Goblin. Like, Norman can just be Norman, puppet master, everything. And he's the perfect villain. He doesn't need the stupid green costume. And, I mean, obviously, the Green Goblin is iconic. And a lot of people's favorite or, whatever Spider-Man villain. But, man, Norman is... You don't fuck with Norman. Because I like that when he's Norman, he's still, like, crazy, obviously, but he's, like, conniving and more, like, terrifying. Whereas the Goblin, he's just kind of like, oh, I'm crazy. I put on the mask. I'm crazy.
Yeah, he can kind of fall into being a Joker knockoff at times.
Yeah. We also get, of course, a Kraven's Last Hunt homage that I didn't mention in the recap of our good friend, the new Kraven, Alexi. Right? Yeah. Alyosha, Alexi, that's the same guy.
Yeah. Who does sleep with Calypso.
Yeah, he does. But he's like doing the whole naked fog fighting animals, smashing spiders thing. Like, he's doing the Kraven's Last Hunt.
That crouch is literally from Kraven's Last Hunt.
Yeah.
That Spider-Man crouch.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he traced the Zek pose. I would like to overlay them too. Not trace in a bad way. You know what I mean? When you homage, when artists will homage something, they'll trace the original image. But
you're tracing?
Yeah, the artists do that. Believe it or not.
No. It's called swiping.
Yeah, well, it's the same fucking thing.
It's also, I don't think we've mentioned this because I think this is the first time Liz has shown up so far. Liz Allen is dating Foggy Nelson at this time, which is so weird. Which is a very strange pairing.
I mean, I can see it because Foggy's got his ways with women at times. And I do. I mean, I'm a big Daredevil fan. It does kind of connect the two characters that have like this cousin relationship as far as Marvel characters go. So I like that connection.
Yeah, man, they're about to cross over in Amazing Spider-Man and fight VR dinosaurs.
I forgot about that. Holy crap. But yeah, no, I don't mind the Foggy Liz relationship. I'm not the one thing I will say about this issue is like you do have Mary Jane kind of throw out the whole romanticizing Gwen thing, where it's like, oh, she would brighten up the room and everything, and that kind of has this romanticizing of her post death. It's kind of every Spider-Man podcast.
But I thought she knew that she slept with Norman.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was Mysterio. Yeah. Um, so every Spider-Man podcast and Spider-Man YouTuber and their mother will tell you, oh, uh, Gwen was actually like kind of a vile character back in the day. Yeah, she was really something. Like I used to get a lot of flack when Spider Gwen was starting to become popular, where it was like, well, I'm not really interested in reading a Gwen book because I don't really like Gwen, and that was before the character took off and everything. And I've since kind of, you know, I like Spider Gwen more than I used to because I kind of had to get over my distaste for 616 Gwen, but every time I read a character reminiscing about Gwen, I'm kind of just like I'm of two minds where it's like, yeah, when a person dies, we do kind of romanticize them. Um, you know, there's people in my family that have done, not so great things, and when they're dead, they're gone. You kind of just you latch onto those good memories, and you don't think of the bad things. Not that Gwen did anything overtly bad, but she was like your traditional 60s comic book girlfriend where she's all over the place. And this is a trope that I kind of I don't like, really. There's a lot of times, you brought up the 616, the Sins Past retcon. There's times in this character's history where it's just like, why are we still romanticizing Gwen? Spider-Man Blue, I've always kind of thought, my girlfriend read Spider-Man Blue a couple years ago, and she was like, if I ever walked in and you reminiscing about a dead girlfriend, I'd be pretty fucking pissed off if you were doing that on Valentine's Day instead of hanging out with me. And I was like, yeah, see, like that's weird, isn't it? Like, so, but I get it.
Whoa,
It
whoa,
kind of,
whoa! But Spider-Man Blue's the best comic book ever made.
I, it's
Right up,
Spider-Man
right
Blues.
up there with Spider-Man Life Story.
Spider-Man Blue's the best story that people have read when they read small chunks of comics, which is nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong if you like Spider-Man Blue. I like Spider-Man Blue. There's points that I like of it. I like that it's a homage to the '60s, to that Ramita era and everything. I have the posters from when the books were coming out, the Mary Jane and Gwen posters. I have them.
I like that
Um,
it was blue.
yeah, it
I'm
was.
colorblind.
The whole book was blue. But that whole romanticizing does kind of come hand in hand with Norman, so I kind of take it with the whole thing. But
Yeah, you kind of can't have one without the other.
yeah, it's always nice because whenever you get a story like this, you always have an artist who's going to draw the classic Ramita look, and
Mm.
I like that photo album that she's looking at.
And then to end the book, we get this visceral Spidey going wild on Norman,
The almost
which
comedic silence.
which is just like incredible.
It's the best part of the book, in my opinion.
It's just like crashing through the window, and Peter's not holding back. He knows Norman's got that Goblin serum. He doesn't need to hold back. He's just fucking beating the shit out of this guy. And then we
Hmm.
get this absolutely torn up, horrendous, like insane looking Norman who's like, "Oh, dear boy, I got you." And then we get Spider-Man Blue on page 37 because he's Spider-Man and he's blue.
I set myself up for that one.
And then Floating Heads of Guilt to end the book, which is perfect because this is just that perfect encapsulation.
Yeah, but
And
who's in that floating head? A very Ramita senior Ben Riley.
a very cool Ben Riley. He's got his iconic hair. I mean, it's crazy how you can compare this Ben Riley to Luke Ross's first Goku Ben Riley.
Hmm.
Night and day. Goku Ben Riley went crazy.
But I like Goku and I like Ben Riley, so
Sensational 7 must be your favorite comic book of all time.
It is, man. I actually, my large Dragon Ball collection. I actually have a Mafex Ben Riley in with my Gokus, with my Super Saiyans in the background. So,
The custom Luke Ross Sensational 7 head printed.
yeah, that for Rule Studios did specifically just for me, where he was like, I don't understand what this is from, but okay. And I was like, stop it, dude. You can take a break from printing out your 30th McFarlane head
He
and
looks
make
like
this for
Goku.
the. I mean the this book is so good. We don't even give a fuck about the Flash stuff.
Yeah, I mean the Flash stuff was good, and I mean like it was nice to add to his character, but it feels like just samey at this
Mhm.
like in this specific issue, just going back to beat on his dad and then go, man, I've gone a little too far, huh? And then
Yeah.
leave. But it's the most like minuscule part of this specific book.
It's a beatdown that comes out. You get literally one of the most cathartic beatdowns in the entire series, and then you flip the page and you get a beatdown from the Flash, and you're like, oh man, like we should have saved one for the other. But one should have came first, is what I'm trying to say. But like
Yeah.
I'm still turned to that Spider-Man beatdown, and it's just that page where he's Norman sipping the his scotch or whatever he's drinking, and you just see Peter smashing. You can almost hear the ice clinking together. You can almost hear Norman sighing as he's sitting down, and his breath hitting the glass. And there's like this calm, and then just bam, him crashing right through, and then not relenting. Like that's the Peter that I like to see from time to time, where he's like, "You are a threat. I'm taking you out."
Yeah, people love to focus on Peter Parker crash outs. But again, since this book isn't readily available, I rarely ever see this mentioned. And I think this is a very valid contender of like one of the best that we've seen in terms of just like Peter going at a normal dude for the most part. Like just absolutely not having it. He's not tolerating another gotcha moment from a goblin.
Mhm.
The
He
last
is.
the last one was pretty fucked up, and this
Yep.
one this one isn't much better.
And it's understandable too, and it's very. It also. It's not like what was the crash out that he did in the Spencer run when they locked Kindred in the. Remember the fucking carbonite cube that Spencer wrote Kindred in, and he crashed out on Norman and everything,
Yeah.
and then he would crash, and then he would leave, and then he would come back, and he'd be like, "I told you once, Norman. I'll tell you again," and then he'd punch him again, like that whole thing. This is like, and there was no repercussions for him having a crash out. This is he has a crash out, and then Norman's like, "Yeah, I got you. This is the modern time of 1997, and we have
We
video
got
cameras.
CCTV, baby.
Yeah, come here, Peter. Do you want to play Metal Gear Solid? Oh, that hasn't come out yet. Well, there's another 2 years, but I'm rich. So,
I got it early. My uncle works at Sony.
welcome to peak story playing. Uh, but this is like I said, I can gush about this for years. I'm trying not to spin my wheels and say the same thing over and over about this issue. I love everything about this issue, even the Flash stuff, the Man Wolf stuff is funny. I like the little bit, like I said earlier. Um, 10 out of 10. Top. This is a top 10, 15, 20 issue of Spider-Man. It's in that range. I would have to sit down and actually catalog them but for me, this is in there. This is a book people have to read, in my opinion.
I agree with that. I don't know if I agreed with you at the start, but I do agree that it's a 10 out of 10, even with the Flash stuff that we're not like super crazy about. But like I said, it's so like it doesn't take away from anything because it's just like a couple page, even a couple panel, like a distraction from the main event at the time. It's like when you're watching a Star Wars movie, especially the prequels, and they'll have like the coolest battle you've ever seen, and then they cut to like something that's, not as entertaining,
Dudes
but
walking down a hall.
yeah, but like you don't even care because like the coolest shit you've ever seen is 2 minutes away, like, or less. So yeah, really great book, really great set of books for this issue. Not a single stinker in the lot.
No.
Great.
Any month, any lot of issues where you get Ben Reilly mentioned and drawn is a 10 out of 10.
Man, that's the only thing I'm looking forward to next episode, because there's quite a bit of Ben Reilly mention in those sensational issues that we're going to be getting to. So, in conclusion, thanks so much for joining us on this episode of The Forgotten Era. As always, we greatly appreciate you being here with us. We hope that you enjoyed our recaps and that they were enough to help you understand the book if you've never read them before, and make you want to read the book if you haven't, or if you haven't read it in 20, 25 years. If you'd like to get your hands on these books, but you don't have a local comic shop that has them, or you can't afford them, please check out Project Rescan. Spectacular 250 was actually the first book I ever did for Project Rescan, so I have a really soft spot in my heart for it as well because of that. Project Rescan is something that I started, and I've mentioned on every episode of this podcast, where Marvel hasn't released a good chunk of Peter Parker and this series, and a little bit of Sensational. So I personally bought extra copies of every issue, cut them up, and scanned them all into CBR files. So yeah, please check that out if you want to. If not, support your local comic shop, buy the books there, which honestly I would prefer you to do, because they want and probably need your money.
To cut it, I don't mean to cut in, but like specifically, since I am beating this horse dead, I looked it up. Spec 250, you can get on eBay for a near mint copy for $10 roughly. I would go and pay that for it. You're going to pay $10 for a double size issue in modern times. Go get a double size issue that is worth it. So,
Totally agree. But check your local comic shop first.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to plug or anything?
No, I'm too battered and bruised from the last couple months to plug anything. So, yeah, just plug away your stuff. I live through your stuff.
I don't really have anything else. I was just going to say, if you want to follow me on Twitter, @BatteryMiro, same thing with Instagram. Pretty active on both, but honestly more towards Instagram these days. Next episode will be next week. As of right now, I'm hoping to have a guest. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to go. Otherwise, it'll just be me covering Sensational Spider-Man numbers 21 through 24, Doctor Strange and the Technomancers, as well as the Christmas issue, which is a really damn good comic. So I'm looking forward to that one specifically, and the Technomancer one, not so much. But as I said, thanks so much for joining us on the Forgotten Era, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.